The Lupin game has gone viral, and the famous thief runs away from a union of goofy assassins who are like villains from the Adam West Batman show. Let it be known that this was an episode of Lupin where Goemon the Samurai fought against a guy with a fishing pole and someone driving a frigging race car. This was a wacky episode of Lupin the Third, and I absolutely loved it. It's definitely capturing a lot of that high energy from the original franchise, while also modernizing it with things like drones. It's always weird to see these characters who still have the designs of 1970s anime characters interacting and using modern technology, but it's something that always just puts a big smile on my face, as did this episode, as Lupin has officially caught the eye of everyone in the world. They're all playing the Lupin game. They're trying to find him and get him caught. And this episode picks up immediately from the end of the last one, where he was found by Zenigata inside of the airport, and since this is Lupin, a crazy chase sequence ensues of them running away and taking Ami with them, which is quite curious, and actually plays to the fact that while Lupin himself is an amazing thief, really, he just wants to be the hero. He wants to save the girl. At the end of the day, he's kind of a chivalrous knight. A chivalrous knight who will rob you blind. Still, this scene is very thrilling as they have a couple of different options. They can steal a plane, they can steal a car. Instead, they go for something kind of in the middle. They go for one of those like weird hovercraft, airplane, helicopter, hybrid things. I'm not even sure what they are, but it's a great sequence because they run away from Zenigata, Goemon does some cutting up, and they arrive at this massive hangar where this thing exists, and Goemon cuts like a huge chunk of the roof out, and they actually are able to power this thing with the electric battery they have from a car that they stole, allowing them to make one hell of an escape. That's just like the first couple minutes of the episode. After that, things do tend to slow down just a little bit more, with Lupin and his friends getting a little bit of a break and hanging out at a hotel having some hot pot. But this is where one, I think, the funniest scenes of the episode comes into play, as everyone is obsessed with the Lupin game and learning about him, and they even are interested in his teammates, like Jigen. They actually refer to him as Lupin's lover, which totally gets on his nerves in the best way possible. He just looks so pissed. For a guy whose eyes you never see, you can totally get how incredibly angry he truly is. We also get a little bit of a dissonance with the character of Ami as well. She's become sort of fed up with Lupin and his group in general, and she even tries to run away in this episode, with Lupin desperately having to give chase. But before we get to that, Lupin comes up with this amazing plan. He's going to fight fire with fire. He's going to attack the internet with his very own social media avatar. That's right, he basically creates a Twitter account and Instagram and just starts posting everywhere that he is, to the point where his face is everywhere and saturated that people who are playing the Lupin game still don't care anymore. They're just like, it's like the Pokemon Go fad. They're just done with it. They're sick of dealing with it. And it was a surprisingly good plan. And the fact that he travels out to the ocean all of the time too is great, because it means he can go just about anywhere and even escape the eye of people, while also sort of still hiding in plain sight. It's a genius plan that I think is really great. The problem is, while people might be giving up on the Lupin gang, the Marco Polo organization is not, and they're hiring a union of villains to go after Lupin and kill all of his friends. But before we get to that, we actually get some cool development for the character of Ami. So she decides that she's kind of done with Lupin's gang. She runs away, and she's just going to go and do her very own thing. But Lupin tracks her down and awkwardly explains his reasoning for keeping her around, which is not that he wants to have sex with her, as she implies in a really funny scene, but know that he simply wants to protect her from the Marco Polo organization until things die down just a little bit. And he does it because that's just the kind of guy he is. Like I said, he wants to be the hero in his very own story. It's kind of egotistical, but it kind of works with a character like Lupin in a way that just feels right. So, as these two characters are finally starting to get to know one another and have like a deep relationship, It ends with all of these villains appearing from out of nowhere, and they are all ridiculous looking. I'm not sure if they're a reference to villains we've seen before in the Lupin franchise or anything, but they come across as like Batman or Dick Tracy villains where they have like goofy names and abilities. I think there was this like one guy named Captain Bone who was like a goofy pirate that Jigen was fighting against. The Goemon scene where he's going up against a guy with a freaking fishing rod, and then just this dude with a race car just drives through the forest almost running him over is just hilarious. I love this scene too because it shows that just about anything could potentially happen in this series, and I anxiously await all of the goofy and over-the-top things they can do with this one. That being said, this was another classic episode of Lupin the Third. So what's the rundown on this episode right here? Basically, just like the last episode, my feelings are, if you wanted more Lupin, check out this show. It's basically more of the same. But there are these little changes they're making. They're doing a great job of adapting it to modern times. Some of them are subtle, some of them are not so subtle, like the drone coming in at the very end, which looked like a DJI Mavic, just all decked out in some camouflage. But the characters themselves still look like, you know, 1970s anime characters. I still really do like that. It was also interesting to see Lupin driving a more modern car in this episode. That doesn't happen all that often for his character. And you can even see there's a little bit of reluctance in using that, but it actually worked to their benefit during that great chase sequence at the beginning where they're able to use its battery to charge up this airplane and make a quick escape, which that was perfect because they were able to utilize Ami's ability to do reconnaissance and learn about things, and that's how they actually found this thing. Through her connections, she was able to find out that this existed at this airport so they could bust in. Really, Ami seems kind of like the perfect partner for Lupin and his friends. She's way more valuable than Fujiko in many ways, but Fujiko has her very own sets of talents, which I imagine are going to come into play very soon, as little by little they are building her up, and I can't wait to see her grand return with Lupin, as Fujiko is definitely, I think, evolved into one of my favorite characters from the franchise, especially from her very own distinctive anime series, The Woman, or the lady called Fujiko Mine. Just really, really good stuff. So, yeah, like I said, this is basically just more of what you want from the Lupin franchise, which is crazy chase sequences, lots of really good humor, fantastic and distinctive character designs, and a story that keeps you entertained throughout. It's stylistic, it's unique, it's old, and it's new. It was another classic episode of Lupin. I'm going to give this episode right here a 4 out of 5. While I did enjoy the episode, it was a little slow-paced, and there were some moments I think they could have sped up just a little bit, but for the most part, this was a consistently great-looking and fun episode, and you should be checking it out if you're a fan of the franchise. So that's my thoughts on this episode of Lupin the Third Part 5. Make sure to give me your thoughts about it in the comments section below. Have you decided to check out the continuation of this classic anime franchise? Are you on the fence? Tell me why or why not, and what you hope to see from the rest of Lupin the Third Part 5. Thank you guys so much for watching this review. I'll see you guys next time. And as always, stay down, baby.